So, love it or leave it, protagonists meet in the first 10% of the book.
I kind of prefer it, but it's not required for me. I think I'm okay if it's a little bit longer, but I think I prefer it.
Love it or leave it, dual point of view narration.
Again, midline on that one. I don't think I prefer it. I think I could leave that behind. If I had to leave one behind, I don't need dual point of view. I'm okay with the one perspective point of view.
All right. Love it or leave it, third person past tense.
I love third person past tense. I love it. I love it, love it. That's one of my favorites.
Nice. Love it or leave it, third act breakup or dark moment.
I am a fan of it, but I don't like it when it's because of just some basic miscommunication sort of thing. Like to me, I like to have the where it's because to me, the darker the better for that third act sort of is this going to happen or not type of thing. As long as it's not something like a pat sort of, oh, we had this weird miscommunication, which is funny because I literally wrote a miscommunication trope book, but for one of my books, but I tried to make it like valid for why it happened. Like it wasn't just like he realized right away this was a stupid miscommunication. Like I tried to redeem it a bit. But yeah, I love it. I'll take it. I'll take a third act breakup.
Okay. Love it or leave it, always end with an epilogue.
I can leave that. I don't need an epilogue. It's funny because like when I watch movies, sometimes I'll be like, oh, but what happened after that? But not always. Like I'm okay with like this is where this story ends, and maybe there's going to be a whole nother book afterwards. Maybe not. I'm okay with the story ending here. A lot of my readers don't like that though. They're like, I want the epilogue, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll give you an epilogue.
Love it or leave it, share research in your author's note.
I do. I share a lot of my research, like where I found the ideas, where I'm coming from with it, the type of research I did. Some notes are more detailed than others, but a lot of times I try to like give at least a nod of where some of these ideas come from or what the history is.
Awesome. Are there any other romance rules that you think you break or play with in your romance books?
In my romance books, okay, so I am a big fan of the kidnapping trope and the forced marriage. So, like, I have to work to not put those into my books. Like, so many of my books are like, and then one of the things that I do in my books, or two things I should say, that I didn't realize was a thing was one, I have tall girl representation. I'm almost 6 feet tall. And so, to me, in my head, when I'm picturing a heroine, she's almost as tall as the male main character. And unless I specifically say she was tiny or petite, like in my head, those characters are at least 5'7". And so a lot of times people are like, wow, they're the same height almost. I'm like, yeah, okay. So there's me and myself insert hardcore, because that's the way I see the world is from way up high, where I'm the same height or almost as tall or taller than most of the male characters in my life. So
Yeah.
that just and then the other kind of self-insert I do is, and again, just the way I experience the world, is a lot of my female main characters are as ADHD as I am. I actually leaned into it with one of my contemporaries. I'm like, you know what? We're just going to make her where she's wasn't diagnosed because she was assigned female at birth, and then but she knows she's been working with the doctor. She's not medicated, so she's just kind of that adult woman who's never been diagnosed, and this is where she's at. So I leaned into it pretty heavily. So I do have some kind of interesting, and then I do try to have some good disability representation. One of my kids has some pretty significant disabilities, so I try to be very kind of have that be very like forthright and have it be an option that I'm never really afraid of. So if I do have
Yeah.
disability, I try to have good disability representation in there.
That's awesome. Do you ever, going back to the tall girl thing, do you ever find yourself, oh, I'm writing a short character. Now I have to figure out what are the physics and
Yes.
like let me act out. How do they kiss?
Yeah, I have. Well, fortunately, a lot of my friends are shorter, and one friend in particular, I'm going to give a shout out to my friend Dawn. She's a tiny thing, and I just love her so much. And so she'll like make all these jokes, and so I always go to her jokes that she makes about my height, and I'm like, I invert them. I'm like, okay, she said this, then it must be like this for her. Or she made a comment about this with her clothes. So I actually go back to like, and then one of my sisters is also very short, and so like whenever we're in pictures together, she's always like wearing super high heels and jumping to like try to be as tall as us. So again, I use her reflections on things that she said or references she's made to kind of be like, okay, would it be like this? But yeah, it is hard for me to see the world when, I mean, last night I wore heels and we were sitting down at a table and I stood up and I felt like a giraffe all of a sudden. I did jumping jacks in a Zumba class once and it looked like Mothra was in the room. It is not, it is, it is is not. So yeah, it is kind of interesting to be able to say, okay, so this person is like, where would the door handle be? Like if she's reaching for a door handle, or
Mm.
if she's getting like she's having to put something up on a shelf, like, okay, she's not just she has to reach over her head. Like I like those
She
are
might
things that I feel.
even need a step stool.
Yeah, I have forgotten many a step stool. So I guess my girls are just jumping. And but I do not, I think I have like three, maybe four books where of the 60 that I have where I can honestly say was actually someone who was on the shorter side, not a tall girl. All the rest of them probably on the taller side.
That's hilarious.